Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, called Dhritarashtra Quits Home. This is text number 14. Please repeat. Kanchit kalam mathavatsi satkrito devavat sukham bhratur jeshtasya shreyaskrit sarvesham sukhamavahan. Kanchit kalam mathavatsi satkrito devavat sukham bhratur jeshtasya shreyaskrit sarvesham sukhamavahan. Kanchit kalam mathavatsi satkrito devavat sukham bhratur jeshthasya shreyaskrit sarvesham sukhamavahan. Please chant. Kanchit kalam mathavatsi Kanchit kalam mathavatsi Ladies. Kanchit kalam mathavatsi satkrito devavat sukham bhratur jeshthasya shreyaskrit sarvesham sukhamavahan. Kanchit kalam mathavatsi satkritam devavat sukham sarvesham sukhamavahan. Kanchit, for a few days. Kalam, time. Atha, thus. Avatsit, resided. Satkrita, being well treated. Devavat, just like a godly personality. Sukham, amenities. Bhratu, of the brother. Jeshthasya, of the elder. Shreyakrit, for doing good to him. Sarvesham, all others. Sukham, happiness. Avahan, made it possible. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thus, Mahatma Vidur, being treated just like a godly person by his kinsmen, remained there for a certain period just to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother, and in this way bring happiness to all the others. Please repeat. Thus, Mahatma Vidura, being treated just like a godly person by his kinsmen, remained there for a certain period just to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother, and in this way bring happiness to all the others. Purport. Saintly persons like Vidur must be treated as well as a denizen from heaven. In those days, denizens of heavenly planets used to visit homes like that of Maharaj Yudhishthir, and sometimes persons like Arjun and others used to visit higher planets. Narada is a spaceman who can travel unrestrictedly, not only within the material universes, but also in the spiritual universes. Even Narad used to visit the palace of Maharaj Yudhishthir, and what to speak of other celestial demigods. It is only the spiritual culture of the people concerned that makes interplanetary travel possible, even in the present body. Maharaj Yudhishthir therefore received Vidura in the manner of reception offered to the demigods. Mahatma Vidur had already adopted the renounced order of life, and therefore he did not return to his paternal palace to enjoy some material comforts. He accepted out of his own mercy what was offered to him by Maharaj Yudhishthir. But the purpose of living in the palace was to deliver his elder brother Dhritarashtra, who was too much materially attached. Dhritarashtra lost all his state and descendants in the fight with Maharaj Yudhishthira, and still, due to his sense of helplessness, he did not feel ashamed to accept the charity and hospitality of Maharaj Yudhishthira. On the part of Maharaj Yudhishthira, it was quite in order to maintain his uncle in a befitting manner. But acceptance of such magnanimous hospitality by Dhritarashtra was not at all desirable. He accepted it because he thought that there was no alternative. Vidur particularly came to enlighten Dhritarashtra and give him a lift to the higher status of spiritual cognition. It is the duty of enlightened souls to deliver the fallen ones, and Vidura came for that reason. But talks of spiritual enlightenment are so refreshing that while instructing Dhritarashtra, Vidura attracted the attention of all the members of the family, and all of them took pleasure in hearing him patiently. This is the way of spiritual realization. The message should be heard attentively, and if spoken by a realized soul, it will act on the dormant heart of the conditioned soul. And by continuously hearing, one can attain the perfect stage of self-realization. Om Jnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, this is a beautiful verse and purport given by Srila Prabhupada, where he makes a very significant statement that when we hear Krishna Katha, we hear the pastimes of Krishna, we hear spiritual knowledge from a pure devotee of the Lord, then that has a great effect on the heart of the conditioned living entity. So I think this is something that we have heard many times before, but I want us to think about, to reflect a little bit on why this is the case. Why is it that if the message is exactly the same, then it makes a difference who that message comes from or who it is spoken by? After all, the words are the same, the idea is the same, the mantra is the same, the book is the same. So many people will speak on Bhagavad Gita, and the verses are more or less the same everywhere you go. So why is it that the effect coming from the mouth of a pure devotee is so much greater in relieving the conditioned status of the living entity. Any ideas or suggestions that you might have? There's no wrong answer here. Just speak loudly and I'll repeat what you say in the mic. Why? Yes, Purushottam. Yes, wonderful. So first of all, Purushottam is saying that it's because they are a living example, right? So this is something very crucial. The word acharya means someone who lives according to the way that they preach. Namely, there's no difference inside and outside between their practice and their preaching. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made it very clear to us that we cannot preach bhakti unless we are practicing that same devotional service. At least attempting to the best of our endeavor, right? Then we can, because otherwise then Prabhupada says if a teacher is smoking and he's telling his students not to smoke, then what is the value of such instruction? So when we see that example, then we feel inspired to follow. Yudhishthira Maharaj says exactly the same thing in the Mahabharata. He says, Tarko pratishtha shrutayo vibhinna naiko rishiryasya matam pramanam dharmasya tattvam nihitam gohayam mahajano yena gata sapantha. That we cannot understand the absolute truth by logic alone, by great speeches, even by the scriptures, because the scriptures can become confusing to those who are beginning on the spiritual path. They say many different things. But when we see the example of the pure devotee, then we know, oh, this is the path I have to follow. And this is a reality. So many people have accepted Krishna consciousness simply by seeing the inspired example of a devotee. They see a devotee and they think, this is someone that I want to be like. Many people. Of course, Srila Prabhupada's example is there. But so many devotees mention how they just see the devotees, they were students or they were, just working, and they saw the devotees doing Sankirtan on the street, and they could not believe how brilliant they looked, how beautiful they looked, how shining they looked. And they thought, I have to see what they have to offer. So simply by seeing the example of a devotee, their words have so much more effect. Because most people in this world, they speak, but we do not know what is behind that speaking. Excellent. Why else do the words of a pure devotee have so much more of an effect on the conditioned soul than the words of anyone else, even if the words are the same? Yes? So they know the essence of the Vedas so that? Yes. Very good. So this is an excellent point, that the pure devotees' knowledge of the scriptures is realized knowledge. And what realized knowledge means is that they're able to present it in such a way that is appropriate to the condition of the person to whom they are speaking. In fact, this is one of the most important qualities of a good teacher, is that a teacher must know not only what there is to know, but what is appropriate for the person who is attempting to learn, what is at their level. We see this very, very nicely. Prabhupada here is giving the example of Narada Muni. We see this in the case of Narada Muni, that he preaches differently to whomever he meets. He will preach to Maharaj Yudhishthira, the highest spiritual knowledge. He gives the example, the story of Prahlad Maharaj, he tells him, which is very, very spiritually advanced, very intense. And he gives very basic instructions to someone like Mrigari, just about the law of karma. And he gives different instructions to King Prachina Barhishat, who is a king in mode of passion. He's in Maya, but he's trying to be a pious king. So he's giving him a different set of instructions. So the ability of the pure devotee to know what needs to be said at what time. And actually, Vidurji is a very good example of this here in this verse. Vidura has arrived back home into the house of the Pandavas in Hastinapur. But he is here specifically because he wants to help his eldest brother, King Dhritarashtra, whose condition is very unfortunate because he has lost the war, his sons have been killed by the Pandavas, and he has done so much harm to the Pandavas, and yet despite all of that, he has no shame, and he's continuing to live off of the charity received. Later on, Vidura will speak very heavy words to Dhritarashtra. He will say that your teeth are falling out, you are becoming hard of hearing, and yet you are eating the scraps of food that are thrown by Bhima to you, and you're living off of that. Why Bhim? Because Bhim was the one who killed all 100 of his sons. And yet you are still taking food from his hand. Have you no shame? Now, Vidura's instructions are extremely intense and heavy for Dhritarashtra. But he knows that he can make those instructions because of the point that you have just made, which is that the pure devotee, when speaking, understands the specific need of the person to whom they are speaking. And he recognizes two things. One is that his brother needs such strong words in order to slap him out of his intense ignorance. And secondly, that he will be able to accept such words from him because he trusts his brother Vidura. All throughout their life, Vidura has served as the conscience of King Dhritarashtra. Because Dhritarashtra had no conscience himself, it was very weakened because of his too much affection for his son Duryodhana. So he had very little conscience. So Mahatma Vidur would serve as the conscience, constantly reminding and correcting Dhritarashtra. And throughout his life, Dhritarashtra understood, he knew that Vidura was, speaking the truth for his benefit. But he was not able to follow. Now, Vidur feels confident that he will be able to follow. So it is very carefully considered. Vidura's decision is very carefully considered. He comes at the right time, and he knows that his brother will be willing to take this instruction, at least hear it carefully. So he understands what information needs to be given at what time. Very nice. So two excellent points. Why else are the words of the pure devotee more effective than anyone else? Yes. Excellent. So they have been empowered by the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master. So this is a very important point. When a pure devotee speaks, it is not the pure devotee alone who is speaking. It is not on his own strength that he is speaking. Yasya deve parabhaktir yatha deve tatha guru tasyaite katita hyartha prakashante mahatmanaha. That because of his firm conviction in the words of the spiritual master and in the Vedas, all the truths of this and his faith in the Lord, all the truths of the Vedas are revealed to him. So this is said very clearly in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that without the empowerment from Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Pravartan, one cannot preach Krishna consciousness. Just recently I've had the good fortune of being able to travel to different temples, ISKCON temples around the world for different services. And as I've traveled, recently I was in Italy, in Villa Vrindavan, in Barcelona, in Spain, so many different places. It's constantly amazes me how many empowered devotees there are in this Krishna consciousness movement. Not everyone is perfect. We're all making progress. But some empowerment is there. Recently I was participating in a Harinam in the city of Florence. Florence is one of the most historic and artistic cities in Europe. Very, very beautiful. Amazing architecture, amazing sculpture, buildings, everything. And people there are also very, sophisticated, materially speaking, very sophisticated. And the devotees have been doing Harinam there twice a week for the last 34 years without fail in the city. Many tourists and many locals. And it was incredible, the empowerment that was present. As the devotees did Kirtan, one devotee led Harinam on his own for 1.5 hours. Very senior devotee. He's been doing it for decades now. And one tune the whole time, at one speed. And everyone was ecstatic for a full 2 hours. And people were coming from their houses and their shops. And tourists were stopping whatever they were looking at to join in the kirtan. The ladies, particularly, they would go, the matajis who were dancing, they would go out and they would pull other matajis and they would start dancing with them. And the Prabhujis would do the same thing. And people were just like just ecstatic. People who had never heard the holy name before were ecstatic. This sort of reaction in a place that is otherwise free of Krishna's holy names, this sort of reaction can only be possible if there's some empowerment that is there. If Krishna Shakti is present. Otherwise, it's not possible. Right? No one, you do music, there's many people, even in that city, who make music on the street. And everyone goes by without looking at them. Only a few people will put a few coins, that's it. And no one is ecstatic. They're just listening and going. But the devotees chant and dance, and literally people were coming from like 5th-story houses, their flats, and they were looking down, they're waving, they're so happy, so ecstatic. Right? So this is a fact. A pure devotee's words, their kirtan, their holy names are effective. Pure devotee means what? Yes, someone who has Krishna Bhakti, Prema Bhakti, but even Prabhupada says someone who is strictly following the process that he has given, that person also has purity enough to preach and affect the hearts of others. So excellent. This is another reason why a devotee is so, the words of the pure devotee are particularly effective. Yes, why else? Say again? Very nice. Because the pure devotee has a taste, they have some experience themselves of how devotional service is ecstatic and how it is effective. They are able to transfer that conviction to someone else. There is a vast difference between someone who speaks from experience and someone who speaks from theoretical knowledge. Krishna makes this clear in Bhagavad Gita when he says, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashrena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. He says they can give you the truth because they have seen the truth. It is not merely theoretical knowledge for them. And therefore they can have a big effect. Maybe you've experienced this with teachers, with very good teachers in your own life. When they know what they're talking about because they have realization of it, they have experience of it, it's so much more effective, it's convincing. We see this in so many cases in listening to Srila Prabhupada's lectures. Sometimes there was one devotee who came to me some time ago and said, how do you continue listening to Prabhupada's lectures when everything he says you already know? Because it seems like he's saying the same points over and over again. But the fact is that one listens to the pure devotee not for additional information, but for greater realization. Yes, in the beginning, we need some information. This is called Sambandha Gyan, some knowledge about our relationship with Krishna. We need some information. But the real gift that we receive from the pure devotee is the realization that is present within their words. That's the real gift. When Srila Prabhupada says, you are not this body, it has an effect upon our heart that is so convincing, because you know it's coming from someone who already knows that they are not this body. It's not a theoretical idea from them. I've experienced the same thing in listening to advanced devotees teach and preach. They'll say something very simple, and it will hit like a thunderbolt in the heart. Be like, wow, that's incredible. Really, Krishna is God. And it's something you've heard 100 times, but it has such a deep effect in the heart. Why? Because they've actually seen it. One time, Srila Prabhupada was giving a class in London at Shri Shri Radha Londoneshwar Temple. This was in its old location, 7 Bury Place. One of the holy places for all ISKCON devotees is 7 Bury Place. The devotees have actually, I don't know if you've heard, but they just purchased that property again. It's a huge, it's a huge accomplishment. This is Srila Prabhupada's disciples all over the world have been celebrating this fact. So Prabhupada was speaking there, and someone stood up in a challenging manner. And he said, you are speaking so much about God, but no one has seen God. No one has seen God. How do you know? And Prabhupada said simply, you speak for yourself only. Right? Means, you have not seen God, I understand. But he was implying, right? Indirectly he was saying, you speak only for yourself. Because Prabhupada, he was seeing Krishna. Right? He was seeing Krishna. In fact, Radha Londoneshwar Temple is the place where Srila Prabhupada was giving class one day. And he stopped and he said, do you all see? He said, Narada Muni is present in class today. He is there. And he instructed the devotees in that temple to have a seat for Narada Muni in the back of the temple. And so you can go there still to the temple, and you will find one asana is there for Narada Muni. Because in that temple, Prabhupada specifically asked them to have it there. So he was speaking from direct realization, right? Not something that is only theoretical, bookish knowledge. And so when spoken like that, it has a very powerful effect. Because you know this person knows. They're not just creating good words. Very nice. Very wonderful points. What else? Why else? Yes, Prabhu.
This chapter is so nice. When I read it more than 7 times. So when we go to hospitals, we speak this, people get to write it so fast. And one more thing that when we read this chapter, we actually realize that even I am the Christ.
Yes.
Though the Christ doesn't have eyes, I have eyes, but yet I am there.
Yes.
Because I am so attached.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Wonderful. This chapter, Prabhu is saying this chapter is so powerful. He has seen the effect of this chapter in speaking about it to others, especially to grihasthas, the effect that this chapter has on them, but also the effect that it has on us as we read. Prabhu is saying that even though we have eyes, like Dhritarashtra, Dhritarashtra did not have eyes, but we have eyes, and yet we're blind. We cannot see what we need to achieve. This is why Shukadev Goswami, Suta Goswami, he says that he is going to present Srimad Bhagavatam yathadhitam yathamati. As he has learned it, means as it is. This is yathadhitam. And yathamati means as he has realized it. Vidura has come with real realization about the temporary nature of this material world and about the suffering that occurs when we do not walk the path of detachment in household life. When we do not move in that direction of detachment, then he has directly experienced what is the suffering, and he has experienced the joy of renunciation. Because he is just coming from long travels across different parts of India, different pilgrimages. So he has experienced it. This is why he's able to go and he's able to tell Dhritarashtra, and it has such powerful effect. This is also why when we give someone Srila Prabhupada's books, it has so much more of an effect than if we just give them our words. They're transformed by reading just one page of those books. Good. Anything else? Any other reasons? Yes, Prabhu. Krishna, what? Yes. Yes. Krishna works according to the dictation of the pure devotee. Very nice point. So this is I think even going one step further, that the words of the pure devotee not only describe Krishna effectively through realization, but the words of the pure devotee actually bring about they change reality. Because when the pure devotee wishes for something, Krishna fulfills it. This we see throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, that the Lord is always eager to make true the words of his devotee. Means how much effort Lord Ramachandra put in his life just to make true the words of his father. How much effort Krishna put in just to make true the words of his devotees. He tells to Arjun, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati, right? That my devotee never perishes. He tells Arjun to announce it. How much effort Lord Nrsingadev put in order to make true the words of Lord Brahma and of Prahlad Maharaj. This is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, Satyam Vidhatum Nijabhritya Bhashatam. That the Lord appeared in this Adbhuta Rupam, in this amazing form, incredible form, that had never before been seen as half man, half lion, just to make true the words of his devotees. Lord Brahma, who had certain conditions for the killing of Hiranyakashipu, and Prahlad Maharaj, who said that the Lord is present within the pillar. Therefore the Lord appeared both in a very unusual form and from a very unusual location, just the pillar of a building. So this is the other advantage of the words of a pure devotee. When the pure devotee says that Krishna is present, when the pure devotee says that we have the capacity to serve the Lord, he is not just describing reality, he is creating reality. That pure devotee develops the quality of Krishna. Krishna's quality is what? He is Satya Sankalpa, which means whatever Krishna desires becomes true. That quality Krishna bestows upon his pure devotee. So that when the devotee says something, it comes to be true. It gives birth to devotion in the heart of the person. I saw this many, many times with His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. Means we would spend years, months preaching to someone in our home temple of Boise, Idaho, in the United States. We would spend many months telling someone, please read Bhagavad Gita, please chant. And yes, they would be chanting one round, something like that. And then Maharaj would come and people would line up to meet with him. And he would patiently meet with each one. And he would ask them, how many rounds are you chanting? And they would say, Maharaj, we're chanting one round. And Maharaj says, I think you can at least chant 8 rounds. And the look of shock on the person's face was incredible. Oh, no. He said, yes, you can chant 8 rounds. And what was amazing is he would ask them for a promise. He would say, will you? So he would say, and then they would discuss other things. And the person would think, whew, that was close. Yeah? He didn't, the topic was changed. But before they would leave, Maharaj would say, so, you promise to chant 8 rounds? And they would say yes. But because they had promised to a pure devotee, they would actually start chanting that many rounds. And they would be shocked themselves. They would come back to us and say, I don't know how I'm doing it. It's not possible because I don't have the time. I don't know why I said yes. When the pure devotee gives us an instruction, he also gives us the power to fulfill that instruction. He gives us the strength, because that point about Shakti you made, right? About empowerment. That empowerment is not just for himself. It's not just that, oh, I have Krishna Shakti. He is giving that empowerment to others. So he's giving us, Tumi kripa kori, Shraddha bindu diya, Deho Krishna nama dhane. Ami to kangal, Krishna Krishna boli, dhai tava pache pache. Right? He is giving the power to fulfill that instruction as well. In fact, there was one elderly American couple who would visit Maharaj, who would eagerly come to meet him every year. They had been attending Bhagavad Gita classes for many months. And every year Maharaj would come, they would come to see him. And every year Maharaj would extract a higher number of rounds from them. So one year he asked for 4, next year he asked for 8, next year he asked for 12. So the following year, when Maharaj came to Boise, they did not come to see him. They were coming for all the classes, then they skipped his visit, and then they came again. And we were like, why didn't you come? And they said, we were too scared because we knew he would ask us for more rounds, and we did not have the power to say no to him. You see? They did not have the power to say no to the pure devotee. And that is the effect that he has. He not only describes Krishna, he gives birth to Krishna within our hearts. This has been described by Maharaj Yudhishthira himself about Vidura just a few verses ago. He says, Tirthi kurvanti tirthani swantastena gadabhrita. The pure devotee makes the holy places into holy places. He is the reason why a place is holy. Why? Swantastena gadabhrita, because he is carrying the Lord within his heart. Therefore it becomes a pure location. Yeah. So Vidura is coming to the house of Maharaj Yudhishthira for this reason only. Sometimes we might think that a devotee is dependent upon our generosity. If we don't give hospitality, where will they stay? What will they eat? If we don't give donation, how will they do their work? So we can become a little proud like this, as if we are doing a favor to the pure devotee by taking care of them. And sometimes we can even start thinking that they are a burden, because, now we have to take care of them again. But in reality, Prabhupada is saying here in the purport, that the devotee has no reason. It's not only does the devotee have no reason to take this advantage, of householders, but actually it is a great austerity for the devotee. It is a great austerity. My spiritual master, Hanumat Preshaka Swami, he always says, you know what is the biggest austerity in the life of a sannyasi? I said, no, I don't know. He said, it is prasad, eating prasad. I say, really? Because from our perspective, everywhere you go, you get nice prasad, right? 15 different items, 20 different items, elaborate. Yeah? So, really? He said, yeah, everything else is easy. I thought maybe he would talk about loneliness, or he would talk about celibacy, or he would talk about but these things were very easy for him. He said the greatest austerity is prasad. He said, why? Because everywhere you go, you're eating from the hands of another cook, and everyone's consciousness is different. So you have to accept their consciousness, which may or may not be very suitable for bhakti, and different food, and you have to eat what they offer, because they're watching very carefully if you ate their item, and are you smiling or not? Did you like it or not? And if you don't like it, then their spiritual life is finished for the next year. Because Guru Maharaj did not like what I cooked. Right? Or he didn't eat very well. So he said this is the biggest. He said this is like being a deity. This is what Krishna does. We offer him so many things, some with good consciousness and some with not. And Krishna has to accept everything and digest it. So he said this is the greatest austerity of a sannyasi. So the point is that, the point Prabhupada is making is that Vidur is not coming to Maharaj Yudhishthira because after all his travels he needs a comfortable place to sleep. This is not why he's coming. He's coming only because he wants to give benefit to Dhritarashtra. And in the process, everyone there is benefited also. Everyone is getting benefit. Actually, this is a fact. When we preach Krishna consciousness, half the time we have some target in mind. Right? We're preaching to someone. We're trying to convince someone. Maybe there's some dignitary there, someone special is there. We're trying to speak to them. But we do not know who is actually being affected by that preaching. We may be talking to this person, but the person whose life is actually being changed is over here. We don't know. Because Hari Katha, Krishna Katha is such that it's going everywhere. And we don't know whose heart is being affected in the process. So, Vidur is here to speak to King Dhritarashtra. That's his primary target. And of course, his words hit the mark. But everyone else there is being affected also. They're listening to these instructions. And we know that not long after Dhritarashtra leaves home, who leaves home after that? King Yudhishthira and the Pandavas. Means they are also listening to this instruction. And they're making note of it. And when the time is right, they do not need another speech from Vidur or from anyone else. Because that instruction has already sunk deep within their heart. And they are ready to walk away. Just like Dhritarashtra is. So in other words, Vidur is there to pull Dhritarashtra out. But in the process, Prabhupada is saying in the purport, he says, talks of spiritual enlightenment are so refreshing. Such a nice word, no? Refreshing. I don't know if any of you have had this experience because I think most of you are full-time devotees. But persons like myself, who often spend a lot of time outside the temple, we come to a situation like this and we feel very refreshed. It's like getting our life back again. Mangalarti, beautiful deities. Where we live in the United States, it's a very small town. Our closest temple is 2 hours away with traffic. So we have to practice at home. We have a small satsang at home. We're trying to do our best. So this opportunity is not there. Beautiful deities, beautiful Mangalarti in the association of devotees, nice kirtan, dancing, all of that. Bhagavatam class, all of it we have to do in miniature form. So when we come to a situation like this, we feel very refreshed, like life has returned. So Prabhupada is saying here, talks of spiritual enlightenment are so refreshing that while instructing Dhritarashtra, Dhritarashtra was the main target, Vidur attracted the attention of all the members of the family, and all of them took pleasure in hearing him patiently. So the target is here, but the effect is happening everywhere. And so one day then, Yudhishthira Maharaj also is able to leave just like this. That knowledge has entered into his heart, and he is no longer hesitating at all to leave home when the time is right. So in this way, the effect of association of pure devotees is very powerful. Actually, if we look at our lives, honestly, then we can see that we are made 100% from the mercy of the devotees. 100%. Everything else we are able to do only because of the association of devotees. And that association of pure devotees is actually very, very rare, very, very special. Sometimes we may think that, there's so much time, I've heard so many classes already, I've if I'm not able to associate now, then I'll associate later. But we see practically that as many of the most advanced and experienced devotees in our movement are leaving this world at a faster and faster pace, we realize just how rare is the association that we have received. In the moment, it feels very long, right? So I met Maharaj this year, I meet him next year, I meet him next year again, I listen to this class, tomorrow morning I'll listen to another class. It feels in the moment I have so much association. But once that association is gone, you realize it was just a moment. It was just a flicker. Tulayama lavenapi. Even it was just a tiny moment, lavamatra, that I received that association. And now there's a long, long life to live without that association. So actually, that association is very, very rare. And when we have the association of devotees, we want to take it very, very seriously and very carefully, because that association will carry us when we need it most. There will come a time in our life where we will have to give that association to others, and we will not have that strength to give it if we have not received that association seriously ourselves. So we can take it very seriously. Great devotees like Mahatma Vidur, they do not come very often, and when they come, they do not stay very long. This is the nature of association. We do not get it very often, and when we get it, it does not last very long. Therefore, let us take full advantage of the opportunity we have to associate with devotees and engage in Krishna Katha, so that one day too, when we are required to take an important step in our Krishna consciousness towards the path of renunciation, we will be ready for it. Maybe the time is not now, but it is not far away. Right? It will come very soon. All of us will be asked to take the step that Vidura is asking of Dhritarashtra, that he is asking of Yudhishthira. And when that time has arrived, we will need the strength. And so we need to collect that strength now, so that when the test comes, when we have to challenge ourselves in bhakti, when we have to take a great leap, we will have the courage to do it, because we will be able to rely on the mercy we have received from so many devotees in the past. That is the fact, that we are entirely made of the mercy of pure devotees. That is the only thing of value within us. 100%. That is what we consist of. Okay, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for your attention. Hare Krishna. If there's any questions, comments, thoughts, anyone would like to share, we have a few minutes. Yes, Prabhu.
The word translation is the word Sattva. Means treated and delivered. So this is the aspect of humility. So we say this one is language and this other day we just I was just reflecting because I thought once that Prabhupada decided to pull off the mercy and all the great funds for this possibility. And then he just started thinking that in this one, in practical the release can spend more time in meditation to practice, so we spend less time in devotees. So why is the aspect of devotee the last agenda on this? Really, we see you are saying in the verse saying stay little longer because they get restricted. So yes, devotee should be first agenda and the last agenda of this one, especially amongst yes. You see that you are not talking each other, you have some grudges, so you can
yes. Yeah. Actually, the word is very nice here. As you said, Satkata, he was very well treated. And Prabhupada actually in the purport, he says he was treated just as a godly person. And this, like the denizens of heaven. So this is Prabhupada explaining just the level of reception that he had received. Both because he was a guest, Atiti, and therefore Atiti Devo Bhava, that the guest is as good as God, but especially because he was a devotee of the Lord, and therefore he was treated very well. Sometimes when we are too focused on so spiritual life is all about balance, right? We want to reach out to those who are new to the temple to attract them to Krishna. This is a very important part of our duty as devotees. At the same time, we want to take care of those who have committed their lives to Krishna. And these two things have to go hand in hand. It is like in a school, taking care of the children who are starting their studies and taking care of the teachers who are taking care of the children. If one or the other is not there, then it will be a huge problem. This is actually a big problem right now in the United States, is that I'm sure it is here also, there's so little funding for teachers, right? Teachers are underpaid, chronically underpaid. So then the government says, why are the students not performing very well? And so they give more money for the education of the children, but they're not supporting the teachers. So then the teachers are not well cared for, then the students cannot learn properly. So both of these things have to be there very much together. And Vaishnav Seva, of course, is the heart of our practice of bhakti. I remember particularly one example with Gopal Krishna Maharaj. He was so attentive to the care of devotees, so very attentive. He would come to visit us once a year, and when someone would share some personal challenge they were having, even like a physical health challenge. I remember one time someone had hurt their knee, some problem in the leg. A year later, when Maharaj visited Boise again, that devotee came to meet him. He said, "How is your leg doing?" And the funny thing was, the devotee had forgotten that he had a problem with the leg. He had forgotten. And so he was like, what Maharaj? And then he remembered that a year ago he had some injury in the leg, right? So much conscious he was about the condition of the devotees. So much caring he was as how and sometimes, another time I remember people were come to his room, they were complaining about one particular devotee or some other devotee, to this person like this. And Maharaj heard, and he dealt with the situation. But in the end, he said something very special, which I always remember very much. He said, this devotee has given their life to Srila Prabhupada. So we have to take care of them somehow or the other. And he said it with so much feeling, like so much genuine feeling. Like this person is not ordinary person. Is not an ordinary. We have to realize this fact. We take devotees for granted sometimes, they need to do all this seva. But if you count the number of devotees there are in the world relative to the world's population, it's a very tiny number. Someone who has given their life to Srila Prabhupada, that person is so special. So special. They're practically worshipable. They must be taken care of. So anyway, those are some things that I learned from him, like he would always say, anytime there was some conflict, he would always say, but this person has given their life to Srila Prabhupada. So somehow we have to take care. We have to take care of it. So it becomes very, very important. This is one of the things people remember about Srila Prabhupada also very much. He'd be giving a class. There was one instance of this, very nice instance. He was giving a class, and in the middle of the class, he was making some intense point. Middle of the class, he stopped, and he looked at a mother and her baby, and he said, the baby is feeling cold. You should cover nicely. In the middle of the class, he's giving class, and he's noticing that the baby is feeling cold. He needs to be covered properly. So we see this example very nicely. Many examples, stories are there in Srila Prabhupada's pastimes also. So yeah, both of those things have to be there. Taking care of those who are coming to Krishna, and taking care of those who have committed themselves to Krishna. But taking care of those who are committed to Krishna means that we will automatically take care of those who are coming to Krishna. Because if the devotees are happy, and well cared for, then also they will preach very enthusiastically. Other questions, comments? Yes, Prabhu? Please use the mic.
What Sukham appears twice. It was translated one to mean what I know, happiness. But the other one he has translated to mean amenities.
Yes.
So widely translated to mean amenities.
Yes.
And the other one is exactly what I know, happiness.
Yes. So, Sarvesham Sukham Avahan. Yes, 2 times is there. So, it's a nice point because it shows the reciprocation that was present. The verse is saying that Maharaj Yudhishthir was giving all happiness to Vidura. That's the first one. It says, Satkrito Devavat Sukham. He's giving him all hospitality, care, Devavat, like the demigods, Sukham, making him very happy. Right? And what is the result of that? That Vidura Sarvesham Sukham Avahan. That because he was being made happy like that, therefore he brought happiness to the entire family members through his Krishna Katha. So this is the reciprocation between us and the devotee, right? This is the relationship between the Grihastha and the person in the renounced order. This is the relationship between each of us. It's an act of reciprocation. Dadati pratigranati guhyamakyati prichati. Bhunkte bhojayate cheva shat priti lakshanam. That we give happiness, and by giving good care, and what is the result? They give everything they have. Right? This is the Vedic system for learning. That we take care of the teacher gives everything they have as a result. So it's a very nice example of, and Prabhupada's translation is wonderful. In one case, he translates Sukham as amenities, and the other one is happiness. Right? So all amenities were there. Means there was some soap in the bathroom for him, and there was body wash, and there was all nice blankets. Everything was there. Right? Good care. And then as a result, he was able to give Sukham, happiness to everyone. But actually, Yudhishthira Maharaj received much more than he gave. He gave only hospitality. What he received was spiritual knowledge, which is so much more valuable. Right? So actually the reward of that service is much greater than any expense we may put in. Yes?
What to do when I go to the station, but his actions, are totally different. The other one is many people come to Krishna consciousness, and that is not about the good. So the ones who are different, not caring about what to do.
Yes. So, yeah. So what to do when there's a difference between preaching and practice, right? We see. So if we are the ones who are listening, then 2 things we can do. One is that we accept whatever knowledge is still valuable for our benefit, right? So one principle that's described in the scriptures is that we take gold even from a filthy place. Even when someone who does not deserve to speak gives us some instruction that is useful, then we should accept it. There's a very nice example of this. One time Srila Prabhupada was in Atlanta temple, and it was the installation of the deities. And many people from the media, many dignitaries were there, and the devotees had completely spaced out all the arrangements. They didn't know, none of the arrangements were ready for the Abhishek. There was no proper arrangement. Like, things were all messed up. And Srila Prabhupada, he was very upset. He was telling the devotees, why is this? Why are you not doing this properly? And he was pointing this out, and he was asking them, he was directing everything. And at some point, one newcomer to the temple, a very new person. He was sitting next to Prabhupada and he said, Swamiji, just chant Hare Krishna. Can you imagine? Very, for a devotee, for us to say that would be very offensive. Huh? But he told him he didn't have any knowledge. He said, just chant Hare Krishna. Like, why are you saying all this? And you know what Prabhupada did? He took his beads, he put his hands in his beads, and he started chanting. Means that he took that instruction, even though the person who was giving the instruction was not following, but he thought, oh, Krishna is trying to tell me something. Because sometimes Krishna can speak even through the mouth of someone who is unqualified. Because Krishna can speak to it through anyone. So sometimes he speaks through the mouth of someone who is even unqualified to speak. So our mood as listeners should be one of humility. However, if this is happening in the temple and it's happening repeatedly and the standard is not being practiced and the situation needs to be managed, then we should go to someone who is that person's superior, that person's authority. And we should let them know in confidence. Under no circumstances should we be criticizing or publicly backbiting a Vaishnava. That is not appropriate. It can cause many great offenses. But if we have some concerns, sometimes there are some serious concerns, we can take it to someone who is their authority, their superior, and then we can tell them in confidence. That is never offensive. That is never an offense. Because then that person has the capacity to address it if it needs to be addressed. So that is the proper way to deal with when there is a problem. Rather than trying to criticize ourselves or address it ourselves, then we should go to someone who has that position, that authority to do so, and then there is no offense. Then that is not considered to be aparadh. That is just good, responsible action. Because we have to be responsible also. We have to be humble, but we have to be responsible in Prabhupada's movement. And then to your second question, yes, we have to take care of all devotees, including those who may seem to leave the movement. Every devotee is very, very valuable. And we see many, many examples of devotees who have left Krishna consciousness apparently, at least externally. They have left the association of devotees, but then they come back many years later in their life and they complete the practice that they have left off. This is what Krishna says, Neha bikramanashosti pratyavayo navidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even if we make a small progress on bhakti, Krishna never leaves us. We are saved from the greatest fear. So we can always take care of such devotees and offer them proper respect, even if they have left for the time being. Because bhakti is a process that is eternal, and sooner or later Krishna will bring them back, right? Krishna has placed his hook in the heart of every devotee. Like when fishing, he's got his hook in us. And when he is ready, he'll pull us in. And sometimes it takes a little time. Okay? I think our time is up. Any other questions, comments? Yes. We haven't gotten any from Mati. Please. You can say again in the mic. Yes. Yes. Actually, this happens to all of us. Even if we're living on our own or we're living in the temple, it doesn't matter. Over time, our bhakti can become mechanical. When it becomes mechanical, then that's a constant battle we have to fight. And we have to attempt always to do our practice with meaning, right? So we can think, just like when we're doing our chanting or we're doing kirtan, we can do it mechanically. Now this is at the level of karma. We're just doing the action itself. The mouth is moving, the hands are moving, the body is moving. That is good. It is still purifying the senses, which is very, very important. But we can do better if we chant with some meaning. Chanting with meaning means at least we intellectually understand. Why am I doing this? We remind ourselves. Every time it becomes mechanical, we remind ourselves, why am I doing what I'm doing? A very nice way to do this is to, when we're singing Mangalarti, for example, then we think about the meaning of the prayers as we're singing them. Right? That when we sing Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhyai, what are we actually saying at that point? And who are we saying it to? Who's the object of that prayer? When we sing Namaste Narasimhaya Praladaladaine, what are we actually singing? If at least we bring it to the level of the intelligence, that is better. Then not just the senses become purified, but the intelligence becomes purified. And then, if we want to raise the stakes further, then we can try to do it with some feeling. And that is the level of bhakti. But we cannot do it with feeling unless we do it with some meaning. And we cannot do it with meaning unless we do it at least physically, mechanically. We try to do it. So it's a progressive practice. Karma, jnana, bhakti. Right? It's a progressive practice. And the nature of the material world is that it pulls us down. A lethargy, right? Mechanical practice, this is natural. In material world, everything is being pulled down. We're doing here, and then pretty soon we're doing here, and then we're doing here. So we have to pull in the opposite direction. It's a constant battle. It happens to all of us. But we have to constantly pull. And we find that if we start practicing with meaning again, we infuse it with meaning, then that practice becomes refreshing again. It becomes ecstatic again. We feel something again in the heart for Krishna. And then again, we develop enthusiasm, right? And if we're not able to do it with that meaning, then we should associate with those who are doing it with meaning. Because then when we see their behavior, just like I'll give you the example of my spiritual master, Hanumat Preshaka Swami, Mangalarti is his favorite time of the day in the morning, like with so many devotees. And he will dance in every Mangalarti. He is dancing, right? Not just swaying, like actually dancing in Mangalarti, as if he is a new brahmachari who just joined yesterday. Meaning Krishna consciousness is still so refreshing for him, so fresh, so new. And you'll see that every verse he chants, he is doing with proper meaning. He is understanding what are we actually saying to the spiritual master in the Gurvashtakam prayers. And just by seeing his example, we feel very enthusiastic in our practice. Oh yes, we have to also do with some meaning. Because, think about it practically. Any way we're spending the time, we might as well get some benefit from it, right? It's not like at least we have the commitment to come for Mangalarti. At least we have the commitment to come for Bhagavatam class. We're doing it anyway, we might as well get some benefit out of it, right? Otherwise we're being misers, we're being cheap. We're doing it and we're actually not earning money from it. So what is the use? Yeah, so... Okay, I think we should stop. We're well past our time. So thank you all very much for your very nice questions, and also for your responses during the class about why it's so useful and beneficial to hear from the mouth of a pure devotee. Yes.
So Brahma disciples who are here, he says Radhika who is the one who composed the Pranam. So if you are having, you have some clarification, you want to pronounce it, because some of the devotees are saying how to pronounce this. So Radhika who composed this Sanskrit prayer is Pranam, and then please begin and learn how to pronounce it. Especially Radhika Giri.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Itai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.